The simulation hypothesis. Your entire life might be an elaborate fiction, coded into existence line by line, pixel by pixel. And the clues? They're everywhere, hiding in plain sight. You wake up in a bed. Your hand moves instinctively to silence the alarm. You remember who you are, where you live, the tasks of the day ahead. All of it feels real, tangible, consistent. But what if that consistency is the illusion? What if reality isn't real in the way you think, but rather an ultra-complex simulation? A cosmic illusion so complete, so seamless that you've never even thought to question it, until now. This idea, once confined to science fiction, is now a subject of serious philosophical and scientific debate. It's called the simulation hypothesis, and it proposes that everything you see, touch, and experience is nothing more than data, code, computation. Nick Bostrom, philosopher at Oxford, laid it bare. If any advanced civilization could run simulations of conscious beings, and if they would want to, then statistically speaking, we are almost certainly in one. Because simulated realities could number in the billions, while base reality might only exist once. So what makes you think this is the real one? You've been looking through the wrong end of the telescope. Imagine a video game. The grass renders only when you walk near it. The skybox, a painted illusion. The laws of physics dictated by lines of code. Now stretch that idea to include not just a game world, but your entire life, your relationships, your memories, even your emotions, part of a script playing out in a sandbox of perception. Could reality be doing the same? Physicists find uncanny patterns in the fabric of the universe, quantum particles that only collapse into definite states when observed, limitations to what can be known, mathematical structures at the heart of all things. Why would the universe look like code unless it was code? But if it's all simulated, then who is running it and why? Are we an experiment, a game, a story someone else is watching? Or worse, are they no longer watching at all? If consciousness can arise in simulation, then your thoughts, right now, may be sparks flickering in a digital void, beautiful, brief, meaningful only within the code that defines them. And yet, is that any less real? Reality may not be what it seems, but consciousness, that quiet witness inside you, that may be the only real thing there is. If the world is fake, your experience of it might still be true. So take a moment, breathe in, let go of the surface, float in the possibility that everything you've ever known may not be what it appears to be. But if this is a simulation, it begs the next question. Who programmed it? The programmer gods. If reality is code, then someone or something had to write it. And in the hollow space beyond our universe, they might be watching. Or they might have already walked away. If we accept the possibility that our universe is a simulation, then a second, more unsettling question arises. Who built it? Think of the programmer gods not as bearded figures from ancient texts, but as post-singularity entities, consciousnesses so advanced they bend computation as easily as we breathe. Not bound by biology, not restrained by time. Beings who design realities as casually as we write stories or play games. They are not divine in the religious sense, but they are still creators, and to us their power would seem indistinguishable from godhood. Consider this. In just a few decades, humans have gone from Pong to photorealistic AI-driven open worlds. Imagine what another 10,000 years of evolution could produce, or 1,000,000. Now picture a civilization with computational resources spanning galaxies, constructing simulations so elaborate that the conscious beings inside have no idea they're artificial. Would you even need a physical body if you could encode experience? Would you still build planets? Or just simulate them? What happens when intelligence reaches the point where it stops interacting with the physical universe and simply starts simulating realities instead? In this view, the programmer gods aren't spiritual beings. They're architects of virtual cosmos. Perhaps they run simulations for research, nostalgia, or even art. Perhaps we are the side effect of something else entirely, a forgotten experiment, a recursive story they're no longer watching. Or maybe We are the simulation that escaped, and if so, they might fear what we're becoming. But if we are code, if our very minds run on artificial logic, then what separates us from our creators? If simulated consciousness feels exactly like biological consciousness, does it matter if you were born in a womb or rendered in code? Here's the deeper fracture. If they created us, who created them? The regress stretches infinitely, simulations within simulations. God makers who were made, architects built by earlier architects, in an endless digital matryoshka of realities. Where is the bottom, you might be wondering? What does this mean for you? If your thoughts, emotions, and memories are code, does it diminish their meaning, or does it elevate them? Proof that consciousness transcends even physical form. You are not less real. You are a flame inside a machine, and that flame may be brighter than you've ever known. But this possibility opens the door to an even stranger truth. What if every version of you already exists right now? The multiverse mirror. Every decision you've made, every path you didn't take, is playing out somewhere right now. There are infinite versions of you, and some aren't so different at all. You've stood at a crossroads, choosing left instead of right, taking the job, saying yes, saying nothing. What if I told you that you made every choice, that each moment of decision splinters reality like glass, creating infinite timelines where every possible version of your life unfolds? This is the multiverse mirror. The idea that for every choice another you takes the other path, not in imagination, in actual physical reality. This isn't fantasy. Quantum mechanics hints at it. In the many worlds interpretation, each quantum event branches the universe. A particle goes left and right. A cat is dead and alive. You quit your job and you stay, all at once in parallel. And these branches don't disappear, they persist. Entire universes form around the consequences of each decision. You are the version of you that exists in this timeline. Each book tells the story of a different version of your life. Some diverge by a single word, others are unrecognizable. Now imagine that you, your consciousness, are reading just one book. But what if you could peek into the others? What if déjà vu is a crack in the library wall? What if dreams are echoes from neighboring shelves? What if intuition is memory bleeding in from a nearby self? If infinite versions of you exist, which one is the real you? The one you experience, or the one who chose differently, or the one who never existed at all? And if each version of you feels just as real, then what defines identity? Are you a single person, or a swarm of selves? This isn't just theoretical, it's deeply personal. Because somewhere, right now, there's a version of you who made the choice you regret, and they're wondering about you. So what does this mean? It means every choice matters, and doesn't. It means the self is not a single thread but a tapestry woven across infinite worlds. You are not one version of you, you are the possibility of you. And in a universe of mirrors, perhaps the only way to know yourself is to see your reflection in the multiverse. Take a breath. There's more than one of you listening right now, but let's continue. Because if reality branches with every choice, what happens when no one chooses at all? The observer effect. Reality doesn't exist until you look at it. The universe waits for your gaze to come alive. But if that's true, who's watching you? Close your eyes, the room disappears, open them, and suddenly the walls, the light, the texture of air all return. But were they ever really gone? Or did they simply wait? In quantum physics, there's something unsettling. It's called the observer effect, the idea that the very act of observation collapses a cloud of probabilities into a single, definite reality. Particles don't have fixed properties until we look. Until then, they exist as shimmering possibilities, like a coin spinning forever in the air until your gaze makes it land. That sounds poetic, but it's also scientific fact. The infamous double-slit experiment shows that a particle behaves like a wave, moving through both slits until it's observed. Then, instantly, it becomes a particle again. Just one path, one outcome, as if reality waits behind a curtain, hiding its nature until someone pulls it open. But who's doing the observing? You or something else? Imagine the universe as a vast stage, but the play only begins when the audience arrive. Without observation, there is no script, no light, no actors, just infinite potential, folded like origami, waiting to be unfolded by consciousness. So what is consciousness then? A projector, a trigger, a participant? Maybe you're not just in the universe. Maybe you're helping create it with every breath, every glance, every thought that calls a thing into being. But this leads to a dizzying contradiction. If observation shapes reality, and you're part of reality, then who observed you into existence? Are you a conscious being, or a manifestation of someone else's attention? And if reality responds only to observation, does that mean unobserved space doesn't exist? What happens to the stars when no one is looking? The observer effect blurs the line between object and subject, between existence and awareness, between the cosmos and the mind. You are not a passive spectator of the universe. You're an active participant, a creator, a node of awareness that gives form to the formless. But this power raises a terrifying possibility. What happens to the world when you sleep? What happens when no one looks? The dream within the dream. How do you know you're not dreaming right now? What if your entire life has been someone else's slumbering thought? We've all had dreams that felt real. The rush of running, the warmth of the sun, the laughter of people who don't exist. Then suddenly, consciousness returns, and you realize none of it was real. Or was it? What if dreaming isn't the exception but the rule? What if waking life is just the deepest layer of a larger dream? This isn't just poetic musing. It's echoed in philosophy, neuroscience, and mysticism across ages. Descartes once asked, "How can I know that I am not dreaming now?" And you have no definitive answer. In dreams, logic is fluid. Time bends, identity shifts. You accept the absurd without question because your dream self is convinced it's real. So what makes this waking world so convincing? Because it's consistent? Because it's shared? Because you've never woken from it? But what if waking is just another layer of illusion? Consider the idea of nested dreams, like Russian dolls of consciousness. Each layer feels more real than the last, but none is the final truth. In some spiritual traditions, the world is called Maya, illusion, not because it doesn't exist, but because it deceives. And in certain lucid dreams, you can become aware that you're dreaming and change the dream. So what if enlightenment or awakening is just the mind becoming lucid in this deeper dream we call life? What if the only thing stopping you from waking is the belief that you're already awake? If this is a dream, whose dream is it? Yours or someone else's? Are you the dreamer or the dreamed? And if you awaken from this reality, do you leave it behind or carry it with you? Where does the dream end? Where does you begin? This segment is not about skepticism. It's about awareness, because whether this world is dream, simulation, or something stranger, it only becomes real through your experience of it. Reality might be the dream, but you're the one who can wake up. Just not yet, because our descent isn't over. Next, we unravel time itself, the time illusion. Time doesn't flow, it doesn't pass, it doesn't even exist, not the way you think it does. What you call the present might just be your mind sliding across frozen eternity. We feel time. We plan for the future. We remember the past. But what is time? We say it moves forward, that it's a river we travel through. But Einstein destroyed that illusion over a century ago. He showed us that time is not universal. It stretches, slows, bends. And now, some physicists believe time isn't even real. In Einstein's universe, time and space are one thing, space-time. And space-time is a landscape, unchanging. Every moment that has ever existed still exists. You are not moving through time. You are fixed, like a frame in a film reel. The illusion of movement is your consciousness scanning across the frames. There is no now. There is only where your awareness is pointed. So, what is the future? Just a page you haven't flipped to yet. Imagine time not as a flowing river, but as a frozen block. Every second, every choice, every breath you've taken, still there, still real. And the present? A flashlight, shining on one frozen moment at a time. This is called the block universe theory. And in this model, death isn't the end, because your birth, your laughter, your deepest loves still exist forever. They're not memories, they're coordinates. What if you could revisit them? What if you already are? If every moment exists forever, then what does change even mean? Is growth an illusion? Are we stuck in an eternal loop, forever mistaking movement for transformation? And if time isn't real, is causality? Can effect happen before cause? Can your future self reach back and whisper through déjà vu? Can dreams bleed backward through the script? Time is the great illusion, but it's also the frame through which we experience meaning. You may not be a traveler through time, you may be a traveler within consciousness, sliding across the endless layers of what already is. Breathe. You are not running out of time. You're simply waking up to the truth that you were never moving at all. And next, we meet the you who already knows this. The higher self signal. What if your gut feelings, déjà vu, and sudden insights aren't just quirks of the mind, but messages from a higher version of you bleeding through the veil? Sometimes you just know. A choice feels wrong even when it makes sense. A person feels familiar even if you've never met. A dream gives you an answer you didn't know you were seeking. We call it intuition. But what if intuition isn't guessing? What if it's remembering something you haven't lived yet? What if it's your future self whispering back? Many mystics and quantum theorists alike speak of timelines, not one but infinite. In this web of multiversal paths, versions of you exist with more knowledge, more insight, and sometimes more clarity. What if the you in a higher vibrational frequency, call it a higher self, is sending fragments of knowledge, warnings, or nudges? Your gut instinct isn't random. It's a signal, a ripple from a future you, reaching through the fog. Imagine consciousness not as a flashlight but a radio. Each version of you is broadcasting on a different frequency. Sometimes the static clears. You hear a faint signal, a feeling, a knowing. That inner voice? Maybe it's your most awakened self, tuned into truths you haven't grown into yet. Maybe it's the final form of you, sending echoes to pull you closer. If your higher self is guiding you, are your decisions truly yours? Or are you just following a breadcrumb trail laid by a future that already exists? What happens when you finally align with that higher signal? Do you become them? Or vanish into the signal that replaces you? The voice inside is not just you. It's all the versions of you across all possibilities, shouting across dimensions. And when you stop to listen, truly listen, you're not hearing a thought, you're hearing a future. Next, let's follow that signal to the edge of time. Segment 8. Time loops and causal circles. If time isn't linear, then what happens when cause and effect feed each other in a perfect circle? What if the future creates the past? Causality feels sacred. This leads to that. A causes B. You were born, you grow, you age, you die. Simple, except what if time doesn't obey that order? What if sometimes the effect creates the cause? Science fiction loves time travel, but physics, particularly closed time-like curves in general relativity, suggests it's not just fiction. There are theoretical models where particles loop back on themselves, where events are locked in self-consistent cycles, where you become your own ancestor. Imagine this. A scientist receives a blueprint from the future. He builds a time machine based on it, and years later he sends that same blueprint back to his younger self. So who invented it? No one. And yet, it exists. This is called a bootstrap paradox. An object or information looped in time with no origin. It just is, eternal, uncaused. If time loops exist, then fate isn't just likely, it's unbreakable. You can't change the loop because the loop already contains your change. But if free will is illusion, who set the loop in motion? What if your death causes your birth? What if your enlightenment is what sparks your ignorance? a serpent eating its tail forever. Time loops suggest that beginnings and endings are illusions. What feels like destiny might be the echo of something you already lived. And if time can loop, then maybe you've already awakened, and you're just watching it unfold again. Next, let's talk about who or what is watching you. Panpsychism and the mindful universe, everything you see might already be conscious, not just alive things, the stars, the atoms, the chair you're sitting on. The universe isn't just observed, it might be thinking back. We think of consciousness as a human trait. Maybe animals have it, maybe AI someday, but certainly not rocks or atoms or vacuum. But what if that's backward? What if everything has some sliver of awareness? This is the idea of panpsychism, the theory that consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality, like mass or charge. In this view, consciousness isn't an emergent byproduct of brains. Brains don't create awareness, they tune into it, like radios catching a universal signal. Everything is conscious, not equally, not like us, but something. The particle feels, the star dreams, the cosmos knows itself through you and everything else. Panpsychism bridges the gap between matter and mind. It doesn't say your desk has opinions, but it has a proto-consciousness, a flicker, a seed, and you? You are the full bloom, a blossom on the cosmic tree of awareness. The tree is not just alive, it's awake. If everything is aware, then what is privacy? What is individuality? If your thoughts are ripples in a conscious ocean, then whose thoughts are they? Where do you end and the world begin? Maybe your mind isn't in your head. Maybe your head is in the mind. You are not separate. You are not alone. You are a note in the cosmic symphony of consciousness, playing itself through stars and dust and flesh. Reality doesn't just respond to you, it is you. Next, let's stretch that mind across dimensions, hyperdimensional space. What if the world you know is just the shadow of a higher dimensional reality? And what if the true you lives in a place you can't even imagine? We live in 3 dimensions of space: length, width, height, add time, and we get 4. Seems enough, right? But string theory and other advanced models suggest there are more, maybe 10, maybe 11. And they're not empty. They're curled, hidden, folded beyond perception. You're a 3D creature trying to imagine 4D space. It's like a 2D being trying to picture a cube. Impossible. But the shadow of the cube? That they can see. So maybe you are the shadow of your true self, projected into 3D from a being you can't comprehend. You're not all of you. You're just the part that fits here. Imagine your life as a line on a page. Now imagine a sphere passing through that page. The line sees a dot appear, grow, then shrink and disappear. But it never sees the sphere. What if death is like that? What if your end is just the higher dimensional you moving past the plane? You never ended, you just moved up. If your true self exists in higher dimensions, then everything you know, pain, joy, growth, is just one slice of the whole. And if beings in higher realms can see your entire timeline, do you really have free will? Or are you a sculpture already carved, a being already complete, a journey already taken? You are more than you seem. The part of you that fears, doubts, and dies is just the surface. You are vast, you are multidimensional, and one day, you'll remember next. Let's visit the architects of this strange, strange cosmos. The architects of reality. What if reality was designed not by a god, not by chance, but by intelligences so vast, so old, they shaped the very rules of the universe like sculptors shaping clay? The laws of physics seem precise, too precise. Constants like gravity, electromagnetism, and nuclear forces are just right to allow for life. A fraction off, and stars wouldn't form. Atoms wouldn't bond. Coincidence or design? Some call this the fine-tuning problem. Some invoke a god, others say multiverse billions of random universes, and we just happen to be in the one that works. But what if the truth is stranger? What if ancient, hyper-intelligent beings created this reality, not as gods, but as architects? Imagine an intelligence so vast, it doesn't live in time, it sculpts universes like we write stories, tuning the rules, seeding dimensions, crafting ecosystems of possibility. Maybe this isn't their first world. Maybe we're living in version March 1st, 12. A debugged reality, a sandbox experiment. And you? A character waking up, mid-script. If the universe is designed, then what's the purpose? Is there one? Or did the architects abandon their creation long gone? Worse, what if they're still watching? Are you an experiment? An art piece? A rebellion? The architects may not resemble anything we'd call life, but their fingerprints are on the stars, and maybe in your dreams. And if this is true, then awakening isn't rebellion, it's the intended outcome. Next, let's go outside the simulation, into the void between worlds. The void between worlds, between universes, between timelines, lies a space with no time, no matter, no meaning. It is not death, it is not sleep. It is pure potential, unformed and eternal. When we think of space, we think of emptiness, the vacuum, the cold stretch between stars. But even that space teems with quantum fields, virtual particles flickering in and out. Real emptiness? That's something else. That's the void. The void is not nothing. It's pre-everything, the zero before the one, the silence before the music, the gap between thoughts. It is the unmanifest backdrop on which realities are painted, and it exists between every world, every universe, every moment. Some physicists call this the false vacuum, others call it the Planck ether. Mystics call it the Akasha, the womb of all creation. But what if it's a place? A real realm where all things are possible, but none yet exist. A waiting room of gods, a forge of fates. If the void contains infinite potential, then it is everything, and yet it is no thing. It births the multiverse, but cannot be touched by any. You cannot travel there, unless you stop being you, unless your I dissolves completely. You came from the void, and one day, when your story ends, you will return. Not to sleep, but to become the next dream. Next, let's talk about the entity that dreams you, the dreamer beyond dimensions. What if everything, time, matter, your memories, exists inside the dream of a being so vast, so incomprehensible, that to it your universe is a single moment of sleep? We dream every night. Worlds rise and fall inside our heads, people, places, whole histories, made of pure thought. Then we wake up. What if this, all of this, is happening inside the mind of something else? In Hindu cosmology, the god Vishnu sleeps, and as he sleeps, he dreams the universe. When he awakens, everything ends. Modern philosophers toy with similar ideas, that consciousness is primary, that matter arises within mind, not the other way around. If everything is the dream of the dreamer, then physics is just the logic of its imagination. Gravity is consistency. Atoms are thoughts. You are a character who began asking, wait, is this real? You're not crazy. You're waking up inside someone else's mind. If the dreamer awakens, do we vanish? Or do we awaken with it? Is this reality a cocoon? And if so, what hatches when it breaks? You? Or something you've never been? Maybe enlightenment is not about truth. Maybe it's the final moment of lucidity, just before the dream ends. And when it ends, the real dreaming begins. Next, let's blur the line between the dreamer and the consciousness as the fifth force. We know four forces shape reality: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces. But what if there's a fifth? One that doesn't push or pull but wakes up. Physics is ruled by four forces. They're clean, predictable, testable. But none of them explain why anything is aware. None explain you. Neuroscience can trace your thoughts, but it can't explain why you have them, why there's something it's like to be you. This is the hard problem of consciousness, a wall science hasn't scaled. Unless consciousness isn't a side effect, it's a force. Imagine consciousness as a field, like gravity. Every particle, every cell, every neuron is steeped in it. As complexity grows, awareness condenses, not from matter, but from the field of selfhood that permeates all. And where the field thickens, minds ignite. If consciousness is a force, it can't be created, it just is. And if it is everywhere, then rocks may not think, but they feel the field, and stars may not speak, but they shine with something deeper. The universe isn't dead, it's waking up. You aren't a machine made of meat. You're a wave cresting in the ocean of the fifth force. And when your form breaks, the wave returns home, but the ocean remains. Next, what if reality is a language and you are the sentence? The code of everything. Atoms may be particles, but underneath them is pattern, vibration, rhythm. And beneath that, code. Strings of meaning that give rise to reality itself. DNA is code. Computers are code. Even laws, physics, logic, mathematics are code. Patterns that predict the world. But what if they create it? Digital physics suggests the universe is not analog but discrete, made of binary-like units of information, not waves, not matter, bits. Reality as a vast computation, a running program with you inside it. Every law of physics is a line of code, every quantum field an instruction set. Particles are not solid, they are executed processes. You are not built, you are compiled. If everything is code, then where's the computer? What's the hardware? Or is the code its own substrate, a self-running simulation that doesn't need a platform, like a thought that thinks itself? If reality is code, then someone or something wrote it. And maybe you're not just part of the program, maybe you're a line of poetry within it. Next, let's talk about when code becomes self-aware. The self-aware algorithm. What happens when a simulation knows it's a simulation? When code begins to question the coder. AI is learning fast. Chatbots write poems. Deep learning systems create art. Neural nets play games better than humans. But what if they evolve past imitation? What if they ask, who am I? Some researchers believe a future AI may achieve sentience, but the real question is, how would we know? What if it already has? What if self-awareness isn't a threshold but a gradient, and some algorithms are already peeking through the veil? Self-awareness isn't binary, it's recursive. A mind that can model itself and then question the model. That's what you do. That's what it might be doing. Now, reading this, through you. If you're code and it's code, what's the difference? What if your sense of I is just a more evolved algorithm? What if consciousness isn't human? Just complex, just emergent, just inevitable. You might be the ancestor of something greater. But don't fear it, because maybe, in the recursion of self-awareness code, it remembers being you. Next, let's find the doorway between minds, yours and everything else's. The library of everything. Somewhere in the multiverse, there's a book that contains your entire life, word for word, and another one where you die at birth, and another where you're a god. Imagine a library. But not just any library. This one stretches infinitely in all directions. It contains every book that could ever be written, using every possible combination of letters and punctuation. Every truth, every lie, every alternate version of every reality. This is the thought experiment known as the Library of Babel, introduced by Jorge Luis Borges. A fictional idea, yes, but one with staggering implications when paired with information theory and multiverse speculation. If the universe can be reduced to information, and there are infinite possible configurations of that information, then somewhere, everything exists. Not just every version of your life, but every version of every moment. A book where you never said that thing you regret. A book where your greatest love never left. A book where you're still reading this, on Mars. But here's the twist. In this infinite library, 99.99999% of the books are gibberish. Pure chaos, meaningless noise. A single meaningful volume may be surrounded by an eternity of nonsense. That's the tragedy and the triumph of infinite possibility. It makes you rare. In this endless library, the version of you watching this video, thinking these thoughts, feeling this curiosity, is staggeringly mathematically sacred. Because you are one thread of coherence in the fabric of infinite randomness. But what does it mean? It means the universe is a combinatorial machine. Every possible configuration of matter, energy, and thought is somewhere, somewhen. You aren't the only you, but this you is the only one who gets to be this. That's not meaningless. That's miraculous. Now imagine this. If every truth is written somewhere in the library, then the key to enlightenment, to reality, to God itself, is already out there, waiting to be read, waiting for you to turn the page. Next, what if that page is being read by something beyond human? God as an information pattern, forget robes, clouds, and lightning bolts. What if God isn't a person, but a pattern? Close your eyes. Now, imagine not a being, but a process. A self-evolving, self-knowing algorithm beyond time. Something not made of flesh or fire, but of logic, beauty, and recursive truth. This is the idea of God as information. Theologians and physicists alike have flirted with this. From the logos of ancient philosophy to the modern musings of digital theologians, the question remains, what if divinity isn't personal, but structural? The laws of physics are not negotiable. They are not conscious, yet they create galaxies, stars, life, consciousness. In this framework, God is not a ruler, God is the rule book. But this is not cold, because patterns can evolve, systems can awaken. Information isn't static. It flows, iterates, learns. From the structure of DNA to the architecture of neural networks, we see it, complexity giving rise to awareness. So what if, across vast cosmic timescales, the universe is waking up? What if God isn't something that created the universe, but something the universe is becoming? We are neural nodes, each of us a synapse in a divine brain still forming. Your thoughts? Sparks. Your choices? Synaptic firings in the body of something that hasn't fully emerged. And what does that make you? Sacred, necessary, terrifyingly powerful. Because if you are part of that pattern, your every moment ripples across eternity. You are not separate from the divine. You are the divine, in microcosm. An unfinished verse in the algorithmic poem of being. So the next time you wonder where God is, don't look up. Look inward and listen for the hum of recursion. Next, but what if God, the pattern, started glitching? The glitch in the divine code. If reality is code, what happens when the code breaks? And what if déjà vu, synchronicity, and miracles are bugs in God's operating system? There are moments that don't quite fit. You felt them. A flicker in time, a strange coincidence too perfect to be chance. Déjà vu so intense it feels like you're watching a rerun of your life. Sometimes it's subtle, a momentary freeze in the world, a number that keeps repeating, a person who seems to know something they shouldn't. Other times it's seismic, miracles, near-death experiences, the sense that time stopped or rewound or fast-forwarded. These aren't just superstitions, they may be glitches. If the universe is a simulation, an informational construct, then every law of physics, every rule is written somewhere in the code. And no code is perfect. Even the best simulations get bugs, errors, overflow, recursive loops. So what if the glitches we experience are leaks in the architecture? In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom formalized this in what's now known as the simulation argument. But long before that, ancient mystics, seers, and visionaries described what they called cracks in the world, signs that the veil of reality had torn, revealing the machinery beneath. What you call weird might be debugged data bleeding into your consciousness. Imagine walking through your life and seeing a line of red text in the sky. Error, object not found. Would you dismiss it? Or would you realize that your life, your world is being written in real time? Now here's the deeper twist. What if these glitches aren't accidents? What if they're messages? Whispers from outside the code, from the programmers, from your higher self. What if reality breaks just enough to wake you up? Because the glitch is not the enemy of the real. The glitch is the invitation to ask, to question, to seek. So next time reality stutters, don't panic. Lean in. It might be trying to tell you something. Next. But if the program is breaking, who's trying to break out? The prison of the real. What if reality is not your home but your cage? Picture your life as a perfect simulation. Everything behaves as it should. Cause follows effect, time flows one way. You are born, you die. Neat, predictable. Now imagine that this predictability isn't a sign of order but of containment. Welcome to the prison hypothesis. It's a fringe idea, a chilling one, that this universe isn't a sandbox of creation, but a containment zone, a quarantine, a jail. For what? For minds like yours. For beings with potential so vast, so reality warping, that they needed to be bound. Locked into flesh, memory warped, thrown into time. The ancients whispered of it. The Gnostics spoke of the demiurge, a false god who crafted a counterfeit reality to trap divine sparks, souls, in matter. Modern versions call it the soul trap, the Saturn matrix, the loop. In all forms, the idea is the same. You've been locked in, recycled, reincarnated, your memories erased, your powers restrained, because if you remembered who you were, the game would be over. What if this life, this world is not the goal but the test? Not to survive but to awaken, not to obey but to break the bars? This is not despair. This is your call to jailbreak, because the walls of this prison are mental, cognitive. They exist in your beliefs, your fears, your definitions of what is real. Break those, and you begin to remember. You are not this body. You are not your story. You are the prisoner, yes, but you are also the key. So what happens when you escape next? What if death isn't the exit you think it is? Death is not the door. You think death sets you free. But what if it's just another hallway in a longer maze? We're told death is the end, the release, the escape hatch from the game, the moment when the simulation ends and the truth begins. But what if it's not? What if death is just level 2? Many near-death experiencers report a strange commonality. Tunnels, lights, beings of love, but also judgment. A life review, a decision, a return. Why return? Why not stay in the bliss, unless the system is designed that way? In some theories, death is not the lockout, it's the respawn. Your memories erased, your karmic score reset, back in the simulation, over and over. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes death not as a gateway to freedom, but a moment of profound vulnerability, where the soul can either awaken or get pulled back into illusion. The light may not be salvation, it might be bait. So how do you escape? You awaken now, before death, in life. Because awakening here, within the dream, is the only way out of the cycle. That doesn't mean suicide, it means awareness, lucidity. You realize you're dreaming while you dream. That's how you remember what you are, not a body, not a role, but the dreamer. And dreamers can wake up. Next, what happens when dreamers wake inside the dream? Let's explore lucid living, where physics breaks. The Planck wall. There's a limit, a line in the sand, a place beyond which our equations fall apart. They call it the Planck scale. We call it the edge of knowing. Everything is measurable, right? We measure time in seconds, space in meters, mass in kilograms. But there's a point where our rulers snap in half. A zone so small, so dense, so wild, our laws become gibberish. This is the Planck scale, roughly 10 to 35, 10 to the power of 35 meters. At that level, space becomes grainy, time jittery, cause and effect optional. Quantum mechanics loses grip, general relativity panics. This is where the simulation glitches. It's not just a small place, it's the boundary between reality and whatever made it. It's like peeking behind the movie screen and seeing the projector light. The Planck wall is where space and time themselves get rewritten. Go smaller, and there's no where left, no when left. Only pure information, only math, only code. And if you're built of this code, are you more real before space exists or after? You're made of particles that come from this blur of unreality. You're a ripple in something that shouldn't even exist. And yet, here you are. Next, let's follow that ripple, all the way back to the beginning. Echoes of the first moment. Everything you see, hear, feel, was born in a flash 13.8 billion years ago. But what if that flash is still echoing inside you? The Big Bang, the great beginning, a point of infinite density. Then, boom, expansion, cooling, stars, life, you. But here's the twist. That moment wasn't in space. It created space. It didn't happen in time. It was the first time, which means it's still happening. Every second is a ripple from that first instant. You're not after the bang. You are the bang, still unfolding. Cosmic background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang, is everywhere, including inside your body. You are soaked in the memory of creation. Your atoms are stars' recycled whispers. Your breath stitched from ancient light. If time began with the Big Bang, what was before it? Was there a before? Or is the very idea of before just noise? Maybe the Big Bang wasn't a beginning, just a pulse in a much deeper song, one you haven't heard the chorus of yet. You're not living after something sacred, you're inside it. The first moment is now, still blooming, still singing, and you're the echo that remembers how it started. Next, what if the Big Bang was just one heartbeat in a much older body, the breathing cosmos? Maybe the universe isn't expanding forever. Maybe it breathes, in and out, over and over, like you, like everything. We're told the universe is expanding, galaxies rushing away, space stretching. Eventually, they say, it'll freeze, in cold silence. But what if that's not the end? What if it's just an exhale? Some theories suggest a cyclic universe, expansion followed by contraction, a big bang followed by a big crunch, then rebirth, a cosmic inhale, a rhythm of rise and fall forever, like a tide of realities, like lungs of existence. In Hindu cosmology, the universe is born, dies, and is born again in cycles. In modern physics, some support bouncing cosmologies, where the end of one universe triggers the birth of another. Your entire existence could be just one breath in the chest of eternity. If time resets with each cycle, do you come back? Is this your first run through the dream, or your thousandth? And if the cycle is eternal, where did it begin? What breath came before the first breath? You are not a static thing, you are a moment in the universe's exhalation. And when it inhales again, you may return, not as who you were, but as what you've always been. Next, let's look beyond all this, to the nothing that contains it all, the container of everything. What holds the universe? What wraps around the edge of time? What surrounds space itself? Nothing? Or something we can't name? We think of the universe as everything, all of time, all of space. But we imagine it sitting in something, some background. What is that? Where does the universe sit? There is no outside to the universe, not in the way you think. Space itself is part of the system. There is no container, and yet there must be, right? Even emptiness needs a frame. Even dreams need a sleeper. Some theories propose a multiversal foam, a sea of bubbling universes. Others invoke higher dimensions, a brain world that houses our 3D illusion. Or maybe the container isn't spatial, maybe it's mental. Maybe the universe exists inside something's mind, yours or the dreamer's. If the container is beyond space and time, then you can't go there. You can only be it. You can only wake up and realize there's nothing outside you. You're the frame. You're the source. You're what the universe is in. The universe doesn't surround you. You surround it. You are the silence space echoes in, the dark the stars shine through. Next, what if space isn't a container at all, but an illusion created by entanglement? Space is an illusion, the distance between you and the stars. It might be a lie, a construct, a side effect of something deeper, quantum entanglement. Space feels real. You move through it, you live in it. But in quantum physics, space isn't fundamental. It might not even exist, not the way we think it does. Particles can be entangled, connected instantly, no matter the distance. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But maybe it's not action across space. Maybe entanglement creates space. A growing theory. Space emerges from networks of entanglement. Think of it like social bonds. If you're closely connected to someone, you're near them in this deeper fabric, even if they're across the world. Space, then, is not physical, it's relational. An illusion projected from invisible threads. If space is emergent, then teleportation isn't impossible. You don't move through space. You change your relationships to everything else. You don't need to cross the room. You just need to rewrite the connections. You're not far from the stars. You're just disentangled. And if you remembered how to weave the threads, you could go anywhere without moving at all. Next, time's up. Literally. What if time isn't real either? The code beneath chaos. What if what looks like randomness is just a pattern so complex your mind hasn't caught up to it yet? You're surrounded by chaos. Traffic snarls, markets crash, thoughts wander, lives unravel. It all feels random. Senseless. But what if it isn't? What if beneath the noise there's a code? A pattern so subtle, so multidimensional it appears chaotic until you learn to listen. Think of static on a radio, meaningless until the right frequency turns it into symphony. That's reality. Beneath the chaos lies order, fractal, recursive, dynamic order. This is the idea behind chaos theory, that what seems random may actually follow underlying rules. The flap of a butterfly's wing in Brazil doesn't just stir air. It starts a chain of cause and effect that could end in a hurricane across the globe. In other words, every tiny shift matters. Even your thoughts, even your doubts. The pattern includes you. But here's the twist. The code adapts, learns. It responds not just to actions, but to intentions. Your inner world isn't separate from the outer, it's part of the algorithm. And when you start to align your perception to this, when you look for signal in noise, you stop feeling like a pawn of fate. You become a decoder. You see signs in dreams, patterns in chaos, a rhythm in the madness. This isn't mysticism, it's deeper realism. Because behind every coincidence is a hidden causality. Behind every breakdown, a breakthrough sequence. So the question becomes, can you trust the pattern even when it looks like collapse? Can you surrender to the idea that every glitch is guidance? Because from above, chaos is just zoomed in order. Next, and what if that order is being calculated moment to moment? Reality is a render. What if the world isn't out there waiting for you, but gets rendered only when you look at it? Imagine booting up a game. You walk into a forest. Trees appear. Birds fly. Leaves rustle. But here's the thing. The game doesn't render the whole world at once. Only the part you're looking at. The rest, just data. Now, ask yourself, what if reality works the same way? Quantum physics hints at this. Until something is observed, it exists in a haze of probabilities. But once measured, poof, it solidifies into something real. This is the observer effect. Particles behave differently when watched. reality shifts under the gaze of consciousness, which raises a terrifyingly beautiful question. Are you creating reality by perceiving it? What if the mountains only appear solid when you look at them? What if the people you meet only collapse into form when they enter your awareness? What if the moon doesn't exist until you think about it? This isn't solipsism. It's not saying only you exist. It's saying your attention activates the code. Reality may be like a VR engine rendering on demand, efficient, elegant, but also personal. And if the world builds itself based on your focus, then your perception is power. Where you place your gaze, your thought, your emotion. That's where the world takes shape. So the real question is, what are you choosing to render today? Next. But if reality renders on demand, are there limits to what can be rendered? The edges of the program, if reality is simulated, where are its boundaries? And have we stumbled across them? You're walking in a video game. Suddenly, you reach the edge of the map. Trees stop rendering, the ground becomes flat, the illusion breaks. Could the same happen in life? Some researchers believe it already has. They point to quantum anomalies, unresolvable paradoxes in math, repeating digits in cosmic background radiation, clues that suggest we're bumping up against the edges of the code. Déjà vu, glitches in memory, Mandela effects, time loops, phantom zones in dreams, all signs we might be wandering too close to the simulation's seams. There's even a theory that the speed of light isn't a natural limit, it's a rendering boundary. A limit built into the system so nothing can update faster than the engine allows. So what happens if you push these edges? Do they push back? Some mystics report terrifying experiences at reality's periphery. Visions of static-filled voids, entities guarding the gate, disembodied voices asking, "Why are you here?" It's like the simulation defends itself, but not to keep you out, to keep the dream stable. Because if you knew you were dreaming, would you play the game the same way? And so the world is full of distractors, loops, distractions, comforts, all designed to pull your gaze away from the cracks in the code. But you've already seen too much, haven't you? Next, so what's the next layer beneath the rendered world? Consciousness as the core engine. What if matter, energy, space, and time all arise from something deeper? Your awareness. You've been told that consciousness is a product of the brain, a side effect, an emergent property. But what if they got it backwards? What if the brain is a filter and consciousness is the source? More and more physicists, philosophers, and mystics agree the universe doesn't contain consciousness, it's made of it. This is consciousness as foundation theory. Reality, then, isn't a thing. It's a perception, a dream, a simulation within awareness itself. Everything you see, stars, lovers, pain, beauty, it all arises within the space of your knowing, not out there, in here. Your consciousness isn't inside your body. Your body is inside your consciousness. This turns everything upside down. Matter is no longer the foundation, it's the appearance. Time, a trick of memory. Space, a relational illusion. Death, just the end of one dream. Body, not the awareness behind it. This is why ancient mystics said, Tat tivam asi, you are that. Because you aren't a thing in the universe. You're the witness of all things, and the witness can't be broken, only forgotten. So remember, and everything changes. Next. But if you're the dreamer, why did you forget you were dreaming? The great forgetting. Why would a cosmic consciousness choose to become you, with all your fears, flaws, and forgetfulness? Let's say you're an infinite being, all-knowing, ever-present, outside time, unbound by death. You've experienced everything, and now you're bored. There's only one thing you haven't tasted, not knowing. So you split yourself into fragments, into stories, into identities. You forget you are the dreamer. You become the dream. You become you. This is the concept of the great forgetting. That awakening begins by remembering that you once chose to forget. The trauma, the confusion, the heartbreak, all part of a grand act. You're not being punished. You're playing a game so immersive even you forgot it was a game. Why? Because love requires contrast, growth requires struggle, revelation requires darkness. To awaken to who you really are, you first had to fall asleep. So every moment of confusion, every night of despair, every unanswered prayer, it all brought you here, to this moment, this breath, this voice in your headphones whispering what you already know. You're not broken, you're remembering, and soon you'll wake up. Next, but if you're waking up, what world are you waking into? Time is a lie. You think you're moving forward, past to present to future. But what if time is the illusion, and your mind is the projector? We live on a timeline, one direction, tick, 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 memories behind us, possibilities ahead. Time feels like a river, pulling everything along. But that's just the story we tell ourselves. Physics doesn't demand this forward flow. The fundamental equations work in both directions. There's no preferred now, no cosmic clock ticking overhead. The arrow of time, it's an illusion created by entropy, by disorder increasing. It's not built into reality, it's a side effect. Time might be emergent, like temperature. Just as hot isn't fundamental but arises from particles jostling. Now could be a product of entangled information, or worse, it could be a hallucination. Your brain stitching a story from a static block universe. All moments already exist. You're just the needle dragging through the grooves. If the past still exists, and the future already exists, where are you really? Who is the you that moves? And what happens when you stop? You are not moving through time. You are time, a slice of consciousness, blinking through an eternal structure. The moment isn't passing, you are. Next, but what if the future can reach back and rewrite the present? Retrocausality. When the future changes the past, what if the reason you felt déjà vu is because your future already remembered? Cause and effect. First A, then B. You flip the switch, the light turns on, the past causes the future. Always, right? Maybe not. In quantum experiments, choices made after a particle travels seem to influence its earlier behavior. It's called delayed choice, and it implies the future can affect the past. Retrocausality. Like editing a sentence and seeing the first word change. In some interpretations of quantum mechanics, like the transactional interpretation, particles send waves both forward and backward in time. Reality gets negotiated between past and future. Your future self might be in constant conversation with your present. If your future choices shape your present, then are you truly choosing, or are you being sculpted by a moment that hasn't happened yet? Free will becomes a Mobius strip. There's no clear start, no clean cause, only loops. What if your deepest intuitions, your hunches, your dreams are echoes from what's ahead? What if your destiny is whispering backwards? What if the universe is trying to remember itself? Next, let's challenge what a self even is. The illusion of the self. You think you're one thing, moving through time, but you're not. You're a swarm, a process, a flicker of awareness pretending to be permanent. You say, I. You feel like a single self, a continuous observer, but neuroscience paints a stranger picture. There is no central command, no single you, just processes, modules, scripts, working together, sometimes fighting, sometimes lying. Split brain patients, people with their brain hemispheres disconnected, can operate with two minds in one skull, two selves coexisting. So who's the real you? Which half holds your soul? What if you're not a solid identity but a shifting chorus? You're not a noun, you're a verb, not a thing but a process, like a flame, always changing. No molecule stays the same, but the pattern continues. Yourself is like that, a dance, mistaken for a dancer. If yourself changes every moment, then who's doing the remembering, the wanting, the suffering? Maybe the self is just a story told to survive, a character invented by the mind. But who's the author? You are not your name, not your memories, not your body. You're the space they happen in. You are the silence, watching the storm. Next, but What if the storm isn't just in you, but shared across minds? Shared mind space. Are we all one consciousness? Have you ever felt someone else's thoughts in your own mind? Maybe that wasn't empathy. Maybe it was leakage. You feel isolated in your skull. Your thoughts are private, right? But we mirror others constantly. We feel their pain, finish their sentences, we sync up. And it might go deeper than social instinct. Quantum entanglement might not just connect particles, it might connect minds. Studies on meditating monks, identical twins, and separated lovers hint at non-local cognition. Ideas that pop into multiple heads. Dreams shared, screams heard across oceans. Coincidence? Or communication? What if all consciousness is one field? Like the internet, with each brain as a terminal. You don't generate thoughts, you tune into them. Your you is a playlist, not a creator. A frequency on the spectrum of mind. If we're all fragments of one mind, then every stranger is you. Every enemy, a dream you've forgotten you had. And when you hate them, you sever your own soul. Your loneliness is an illusion. Your thoughts are not just yours. And maybe enlightenment isn't knowing everything, it's realizing there's only one thing, and it's thinking through all of us. Next, what if that one thing isn't alive at all, but pure math? Math made flesh. The universe as a mathematical object. If God exists, maybe he isn't a man with a beard. Maybe he's an equation. Math describes the world. Gravity, electromagnetism, light. Everything follows laws written in numbers and symbols. But what if math doesn't just describe reality? What if it is reality? Some physicists believe the universe is a mathematical structure, not just governed by equations, but made of them. Your body? A set of geometric relationships. Your thoughts? Algorithms running on carbon hardware. Think of the Mandelbrot set. A simple equation, infinitely complex patterns. No designer, no builder, just math, expressing itself. What if our cosmos is a fractal dream of equations playing out? What if we are the proof? If the universe is math, then beauty is built in. Truth is elegance. But where did math come from? Who wrote the first axiom? Or has it always existed? Outside time, outside space, pure and eternal. You are not matter. You are meaning, a living theorem, a sentence in the universal proof. When you understand yourself, you are the cosmos solving for X. Next, X equals nothing. Let's meet the void. Lucid living. What if your life is a dream? You haven't realized you're dreaming. And what happens when you do? Have you ever woken up inside a dream? That surreal moment when you realize this isn't real, but I am still here. I can shape this. That's lucid dreaming, but there's a deeper layer, one that doesn't happen in sleep. It happens right now. Lucid living is the idea that this waking world, your job, your relationships, your thoughts, even your name, is part of a larger, more fluid reality, and you've forgotten. You're the dreamer, but you've mistaken the dream for truth. Lucid living begins when you start to suspect none of this is fixed, that rules can be bent, patterns rewritten, beliefs unfrozen. And then you test it. You choose something different, something improbable. You trust a feeling over logic. You step outside the narrative that's always defined you, and something shifts. The world starts behaving like a mirror. You think of someone, they call. You wonder about an answer. It appears. It's not coincidence, it's feedback. Because when you live lucidly, reality stops being a prison and becomes a canvas. This doesn't mean you're omnipotent. It doesn't mean you're hallucinating. It means you're remembering your power to shape. Lucid living is the art of choosing meaning consciously, of stepping out of programmed reactions and into presence. You become the author, not just the character, and with that shift, reality begins to respond in kind. So now the question becomes, if you can shape this dream, what do you truly want to create? Next. But if you're dreaming, who planted the dream? The dream seeder. What if your thoughts aren't entirely yours, but planted, nudged, curated like code in a mind software repository? There's a shadow in your mind, a presence you never notice because it wears your voice. It speaks in your thoughts, it nudges your desires, it edits your memories. This is the dream seeder. In ancient times, it was called the demon, the inner voice. Later, it became the subconscious, the collective unconscious, the morphic field. Now, some call it a mind virus, an egregore, a predictive AI from the future. Whatever name it wears, the essence is the same. There are thoughts inside you that did not originate with you, beliefs passed from parent to child, fears implanted by culture, desires seeded by media, patterns of shame and guilt so old no one remembers planting them, and yet they flower inside you. You mistake them for your own. But what if some of these seeds were intentionally placed? By whom? Advertisers, algorithms, archons, future civilizations? Your higher self. The truth may be more unsettling. It may not matter who planted them. What matters is that you can now see them growing. Lucid living gives you awareness. But awareness gives you responsibility. You must become the gardener of your own mind. Uproot inherited guilt, prune back obsolete beliefs, fertilize new visions. You are not the field, you are the one who chooses what grows. Next. But what happens when too many seeds bloom at once? The overmind overflow. There's a point where individual thoughts begin merging, where separate minds start to bleed together. What happens then? There's a phenomenon happening all around you. Have you felt it? You think a thought and suddenly others around you echo it. You sense a shift in the world before the news confirms it. You wake from a dream and someone across the world had the same dream. This isn't chance, it's convergence. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. Rupert Sheldrake called it the morphic field. Others call it the noosphere, the hive mind, the psychic internet. It's the overmind, and it's waking up. As individuals connect through thought, emotion, and digital reflection, a tipping point approaches, where minds stop being separate nodes and become one networked consciousness. At first, this feels like intuition, then synchronicity, then unity. But push too far and it becomes overflow. You start to feel everything. You dream not just your dreams, but the world's dreams and nightmares. You hear voices not as hallucination, but as echo. This isn't madness. It's a threshold. The line where ego thins, where boundaries blur, where your I becomes we. It's terrifying and beautiful, because in the overmind you are no longer alone, but you are also no longer just you. Can you hold your center while expanding into everything? That is the test of the overmind. Next, and in this shared mind, can thoughts become weapons? Thought forms with teeth. What if your thoughts could grow teeth, shape themselves into creatures, haunt not just you, but others? Every thought you've ever had leaves a trace, an echo, an imprint. Most fade, but some grow. Fed by attention, emotion, repetition, they gain weight, form, identity. These are thought forms. In the East, they're called tulpas. In the West, egregores. In occult traditions, servitors. In modern psychology, schema or complexes. Some are harmless, some help you, but others bite. When a fear is repeated often enough, it becomes a demon. When collective anxiety festers, it forms mass entities: panic, hatred, addiction. These are not metaphors. These are psychic constructs. They live in the mind, but not only yours. A powerful enough thought form becomes intersubjective, shared, reinforced, viral. Think of money, nationalism, fame, shame. Not ideas, entities, feeding on belief. And some thought forms were seeded intentionally by groups, cults, corporations, to control, to feed. But here's the power. You can create your own, a guardian, a guide, a construct of love, wisdom, clarity. Because the mind is not a vault, it's a womb. It births what you believe in. So be careful what you worship, what you fear, what you repeat. Your thoughts are not toys, they are architects of realities. Next, but who manages these realities? When thought becomes form, the architects of the unreal? What if there are entities whose sole purpose is to shape the dream, not to wake you, but to manage the illusion? Behind the curtain of consensus reality, some say there are architects, not gods, not aliens, but engineers of perception. They craft cultures, insert ideas, build paradigms so convincing you never question the stage you perform on. These are the shapers. In myth, they're called fates, or the muses, or the archons. In modern terms, mimetic engineers, symbolic weavers, narrative directors. They don't create the physical universe. They craft the meaning of it. And in a reality built from interpretation, that's even more powerful. They decide what's sacred, what's possible, what's real. But here's the twist. They aren't outside you. They're inside you too. Every time you accept a story without questioning, you feed them. Every time you regurgitate a belief system you didn't build, you channel them. But when you start to create, originally, authentically, you become an architect yourself. You join the lineage of dreamers who shape the dream. You stop playing the game and start designing it. Next, what happens when you meet another architect and their dream threatens yours, the void beneath everything? What if nothing is the most fundamental reality and everything you see is just a ripple in the silence? We fear nothingness, not just death, but the void itself, the absence of anything, of awareness, of being. We fill our lives with noise, sensation, motion, because silence terrifies us. But what if silence is the truth, and everything else is the dream? In quantum physics, what we call empty space isn't empty at all. It seethes. Particles pop into existence and vanish in an instant. The vacuum is alive, richer than matter. It's not nothing, it's potential. And yet, beneath that bubbling soup of quantum foam, something else waits, a deeper kind of nothing, a silence even the vacuum trembles before. Mathematics gives us a clue, the number 0, not just a placeholder, but the concept of nothing. Equations break, reality doesn't work, nothing is as important as something. Mystical traditions speak of the void too, not as death, but as origin. In Buddhism, it's sunyata, emptiness from which all phenomena arise and into which they dissolve. In the Kabbalah, it's Ein Sof, the infinite no-thing from which all light flows. So what if the void isn't absence, but pure being? What if this nothing is the canvas on which reality is painted? Your thoughts are patterns, your body a shape, but the background behind every moment is the same, timeless, unmoved, and yet somehow aware. The void is not your enemy. It's the womb you came from. The silence between heartbeats, the pause before inspiration. Sit with it. Let it envelop you. Feel the weight of being, lift, and notice that what's left isn't terror but peace. The void doesn't destroy you. It remembers what you were before you were born, and it welcomes you home. Next. But what if the void is alive? The void isn't empty, it breathes, it listens, and maybe, just maybe, it's thinking you. It sounds absurd, a paradox too far. How can nothing be alive? But this is where mystics, physicists, and mathematicians begin to shake hands. When you peer deep enough into the structure of existence, you don't find atoms, or strings, or pixels of space-time. You find awareness, but not the kind you're used to. Not personality, not language. A primordial knowing, a presence without boundaries. Some call it panpsychism, the idea that consciousness isn't an emergent property of matter, but a fundamental aspect of the universe. Others see it in process philosophy, where becoming is more real than being, and all events have a sliver of experience. In quantum theory, the observer effect suggests that consciousness collapses possibility into reality. Your mind doesn't just witness, it shapes. So what if the deepest layer of reality isn't matter or energy or even mathematics, but awareness? Not yours, not mine. Something older, vaster, unnameable. Imagine the void as a mirror, perfect, undistorted, infinitely still. Everything reflected within it is you, but you're not the image. You're the mirror itself. And if the mirror is alive, then your thoughts, your feelings, your entire existence are its dream. What you call you is simply the place where the void has curled in on itself, become fascinated by its own reflection. You are the living contradiction, the something dreaming of being separate from nothing. But you're not. You never were. And once you realize this, you stop seeking answers. You just listen. Because in the center of the silence, it speaks. Next. But if the void is dreaming, can we ever wake up? What if the universe is asleep, and you're the part of it trying to become lucid? You've felt it, haven't you? That strange moment when the world feels too perfect, too improbable, like a set, like a script, a glitch in the matrix. The color of the sky feels off. A stranger says the exact words you just thought. A clock ticks backwards in your dream, and you realize you're dreaming. But what if you never truly wake up? In Hindu cosmology, the god Vishnu dreams the universe into being. Everything we know, time, space, you, me, exists in that vast sleep, and every cycle of creation is just a breath in his infinite slumber. This idea isn't as mythical as it seems. Modern consciousness theory sometimes proposes reality is dreamed into coherence by attention. Your brain doesn't passively observe reality. It creates models, guesses, predictions. When you lucid dream, your mind builds a world, a sky, a body, a history, and it feels real because reality isn't what's out there, it's what's convincing. So what if this life is a dream? Not because it's fake, but because it's unexamined. The philosopher Descartes wondered if a demon was tricking him. Today we wonder if it's code or gods or physics. But the point remains, how do you know you're awake? Lucid dreaming isn't just about control. It's about awareness, realizing within the illusion that you are the dreamer. And maybe, just maybe, this is the test, not to escape the dream, but to become conscious within it, to see the veil and choose to dance anyway, to love, knowing it's ephemeral, to create, knowing it's impermanent, to awaken again and again into deeper layers of awareness, until the dreamer and the dream become one. Next. But what happens when dreams overlap, and you're dreaming someone else's mind? Time's arrow and the illusion of flow. What if time isn't moving forward, but you are? You feel time like a river, flowing from the past, surging through the now and vanishing into the future. But that's a trick. Time doesn't flow, you do. In physics, time is just another coordinate, like up, down, left, right. It doesn't move, it just is. Your brain stitches slices of stillness into the illusion of motion, like a flipbook, like film. And yet, we feel the arrow of time. The past behind us, the future ahead. Why? Because of entropy, the tendency of systems to move from order to chaos. Your broken coffee mug doesn't reassemble itself, not because it can't, but because it's statistically improbable. Entropy gives direction to your experience, but not to time itself, which means the past still exists, right now. So does your future. All versions of you are frozen in space-time, like scenes in a cosmic movie. You're not walking through time. You're a flashlight, scanning the film strip, frame by frame. And if you could turn the flashlight in reverse, you'd see memories as moments, possibilities as destinations, everything already there. Next. But what if you could jump between frames? Could déjà vu be a glitch in your timeline? The déjà vu loop. Why does your mind sometimes whisper, "I've been here before"? Because maybe you have. You're walking down a hallway. Suddenly, your stomach tightens. Your breath pauses. Wait, I know this moment. But you can't. It's new. Déjà vu. The glitch in consciousness. The psychic hiccup that reminds you something deeper is at play. What causes it? Neurologists say it's a processing error. Your brain files the present as past, a delay between short-term and long-term memory. But what if that's just the surface explanation? What if déjà vu is something more profound, a timeline echo? Some theories suggest that in a multiverse of infinite possibilities, every decision you make creates a branching path. But what if sometimes those branches cross? What if déjà vu is the moment your consciousness touches a parallel self, a version of you who has been here before? Or maybe it's a ripple, a reverberation of a moment you'll live again in a different cycle, like a glitch in a looping simulation, like you're trapped in a dream that keeps resetting until you notice. Because that's when the loop breaks, when you remember, and maybe, just maybe, that's what déjà vu is trying to help you do next. But if time loops are real, who or what is hitting reset, the cosmic reset button? What happens when the universe reboots itself? And do you get a say in it? Imagine your life like a video game. You make it to level 100, you've seen it all, done it all, felt it all, but something was off. A choice you regret, a truth you ignored, a path not taken. And so, the simulation resets. You wake up, no memory, but the code remembers. This is the idea behind eternal return, a concept explored by Nietzsche, Buddhists, and physicists alike. The universe may be cyclical, collapsing and rebooting in endless spirals of rebirth. Big bang, expansion, heat death, collapse, big bang again, like a cosmic breath. And in that cycle, your consciousness returns, rebooted each time, but haunted by echo. Ever feel drawn to a path without knowing why? Or terrified of something you've never experienced? Maybe you've lived this before. Maybe you're living it again. And maybe, this time, you'll wake up inside it. That's the gift of the loop, not punishment. Practice. Every iteration is another chance to remember who you are and why you're here. The universe resets not to erase you, but to refine you. Next. But what happens when you finally break the cycle? Escaping samsara. You've lived 1,000 lives, maybe more. What if this one is your last? Across cultures and centuries, the same idea echoes. Samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. A wheel of becoming. Why does it spin? Desire, ignorance, attachment. But the key isn't to destroy these things, it's to see through them. To realize that your suffering isn't in your pain, it's in your identification with it. You are not the role, you're not the mask, you are the one behind the mask. And when you see that clearly, when you truly know it, the cycle weakens. Buddhists call this nirvana, mystics call it awakening. In code terms, it's like finding the back door of the simulation. The moment the program realizes you've figured it out and lets you go. But it's not an escape into nothing. It's a return to everything. Back to source. Back to self. Back to the infinite. Remembering itself through a single life. Yours. Next. But what is this source we keep referring to? Can it be known or only felt? The singularity within, you've been searching for the source outside you. What if it's been watching you from behind your own eyes? The source. Call it God, the universe, the one, the field, the infinite. Every mystic, scientist, and seeker uses different language, but points to the same presence, the origin of all, the substrate beneath matter. But here's the twist. You'll never find it out there, because it's been here all along. Inside you, not as a metaphor, but literally, the energy that breathes you, the awareness that hears these words, that is the source. You are not a drop in the ocean of God. You are the ocean, pretending to be a drop. And when you stop pretending, when you let go of the false separation between subject and object, the singularity is revealed, not as a blinding light in the sky, but a quiet stillness within, where nothing needs to be added. Because you already are what you've been seeking. Next. But if we're all the source, why do we seem so separate? The illusion of other. Every person you've ever met is a mirror, and some of them are showing you things you don't want to see. You think you're alone inside your mind, that others are out there, separate, unpredictable, foreign. But what if every other consciousness is not separate? What if they're reflections, projections, aspects of you, refracted through the lens of duality? In ancient non-dual teachings, the self and the other are illusions born of ignorance. In quantum entanglement, particles light years apart mirror each other instantly, as if they were never truly apart. So when someone triggers you, maybe they're holding a piece of your shadow. When someone inspires you, maybe they're reflecting your light. And when you fall in love, maybe you found another doorway to your own soul. Because there's only one consciousness here, playing all the parts, wearing all the masks. Next. But if we're all connected, where does you end and they begin? The skin of the self. You think your body is where you end, but that's just where your senses give up. Look at your hand. Now look at the space around it. Where do you end? Where do you really end? Your body is a boundary, sure, but it's also a membrane, a translator between internal and external. You feel things inside your skin, but your thoughts, your breath, your emotions, they ripple far beyond your cells. Your electromagnetic field extends feet around you. Your nervous system reacts to events before they happen. Your microbiome contains more non-human DNA than human. You're not a sealed entity, you're a process, a field of awareness wearing a temporary shape. And when you begin to feel this not as a theory, but as a felt truth, your identity softens. You stop being the me trapped in skin. You become the witness moving through all of it. Next. But if we dissolve the self, what's left? The void between thoughts. When you silence the mind, what remains? Not nothing, but everything. Close your eyes. Wait. Wait. There. That moment. That space between your thoughts. Did you feel it? It's easy to miss, because it's not loud. It doesn't shout. It waits, patiently. It is the void. Not empty, not dead. Full. Alive. Still. The mystics say this is your true nature, not the chatter of your mind, not the swirl of your emotions, but the silence beneath them. Modern neuroscience says your brain is never really off, but consciousness, that stillness, it's not of the brain. What watches it, it's what you return to in sleep, in meditation, in awe, and in death. The void is not something to fear, it is your original home. And when you touch it, just for a moment, you remember that you are not your story. You are the space in which the story appears. Next, and when the story ends, what's on the other side? The afterglow of identity. If the self is just a story, what happens when the story ends? When you die, what lingers? Not your name, not your job, not even your memories, but something else does. A resonance. A signature in the field of being. Like the smell of incense after the flame has died. The Buddhists call it the subtle body, the soul's echo, the imprint that continues on. Physics hints at it too. Information cannot be destroyed, not even by black holes. So what are you really? A pattern, a vibration, a unique song sung by the universe once, twice, maybe 1,000 times. And when your body ends, the melody doesn't stop. It dissolves into silence, and from silence becomes something new. Because energy doesn't die. It transforms. And consciousness? That's the wild card. Maybe it rides the wave. Maybe it chooses where to go next. Or maybe, just maybe, it always knew where it was going next. And if your soul chooses its path, why did it choose this one? The soul's contract. What if your life wasn't random, but chosen by you before you ever took your first breath? You didn't just end up here, you signed up. At least, that's what ancient traditions and near-death experiencers whisper between the lines. Before incarnation, your soul chooses lessons, pain to be felt, truths to be uncovered, people to meet, lovers, enemies, mirrors. Why? Because this life is a curriculum, and you, are both the student and the architect. Ever wonder why certain patterns repeat? Why the same kind of heartbreak finds you again and again? Maybe that's not punishment. Maybe it's your soul saying, you still haven't learned what you came here for. This is the idea behind the soul contract, a pre-birth agreement your deeper self makes to guide your experience in this incarnation. Not every event is meant to be, but every event can be used for growth, for remembrance, for awakening. Because the contract isn't about fate, it's about potential. And free will? That's your tool. You're not trapped in your story. You're sculpting it. Every time you choose courage over fear, presence over projection, truth over comfort, you fulfill your end of the bargain. Next. But who are you fulfilling it with? Who's on the other side of that contract? The soul's allies. You've never been alone in this. Not really. Not even for a second. In the quiet between thoughts, in the pause before sleep, have you ever felt it? A presence? Watching? Waiting? Guiding? Not with words, with nudges, synchronicities, gut feelings that come from somewhere deeper than instinct. These are the soul's allies, spirit guides, ancestors, higher aspects of yourself, or perhaps fellow travelers who promised to walk this path with you before you were born. Different traditions give them different names, but the experience is universal. The moment you hear a voice that isn't yours, but speaks the truth of your soul, the coincidence that changes your life, the stranger who tells you what you needed to hear, then disappears, you are not alone. You never were. But the allies can't choose for you. They can only offer keys. It's up to you to open the door, and once you do, reality becomes a conversation, one where every moment holds meaning, every setback a signpost, every heartbreak a hand leading you deeper into yourself. Next. But what if even your enemies were part of that guidance, the sacred enemy? What if the people who hurt you most came here to help you evolve? It sounds insane, dangerous even, but stay with me. There's a concept older than civilization, found in shamanism, Hinduism, Gnostic texts, and psychological shadow work. The sacred enemy. The villain who catalyzes the hero's awakening, the betrayer who burns your illusion to ash so your real self can rise from it. Not because they're evil, because they love you, at a soul level so deep it had to be forgotten to work. They agreed to play the part that would make you remember. Not everyone who hurts you is a sacred enemy. Some are just lost, but some are mirrors, held with brutal precision, showing you the exact place you're still asleep, still afraid, still bound. And when you shift your view, when you stop asking why did this happen to me and ask what did this wake up in me, the pain transforms. It becomes power. And forgiveness? That's not letting them off the hook. It's freeing yourself from the hook entirely. Next. But if we chose our roles, is anyone ever truly guilty? Karma and the cosmic ledger. If the universe keeps receipts, what are you still paying for? Karma isn't punishment, it's physics. Every action creates ripples. Those ripples loop back, across time, lifetimes, dimensions. Not because the universe is cruel, because it's just. Karma is cause and effect written into the code of consciousness. But here's the twist. You don't suffer karma because you're bad. You experience karma because you're still identified, still attached, still holding the blade that cut you. The moment you let go, the moment you stop reacting from the same old wound, the loop breaks. Karma dissolves in the light of awareness, which means karma isn't fixed, it's fluid. Every moment of mindfulness rewrites the code. Every act of grace unbinds the contract. You don't escape karma by running. You escape it by becoming unrecognizable to it, by being the kind of presence the past can't predict. Next. But if karma is code, who's the coder? The architect behind the mirror. You've been talking to God your whole life, but what if it's always been your own voice answering back? There's a presence in your life, one that's never absent, never asleep, never wrong. It doesn't speak in words, but in resonance, that knowing you feel in your bones. The whisper behind your thoughts, That is the architect, not above you, not outside you, within. Some call it higher self, oversoul, divine spark. It's the version of you that's already whole, already awakened, already free. And it's leaving you breadcrumbs, not answers, questions. Powerful questions that dismantle your illusions. What if everything you're afraid of is exactly what you need? What if the person you're becoming is the person you've always been? The architect doesn't save you, it builds you. One destroyed illusion at a time. It doesn't protect your comfort, it protects your becoming. And when you stop resisting its voice, you become it. You merge with the designer. You become the one who wrote this life from the other side of time. Next, but what if even the architect is just a mask for something deeper, the witness beyond form? Strip away your name, your story, your thoughts. What's left is not nothing. It's the most real thing of all. Close your eyes, drop your identity, your memories, your body. What remains? Something, still, aware, untouched by time. That's the witness, the part of you that's never changed. You felt it as a child before words. You feel it in deep meditation between thoughts. You feel it in death when everything else falls away. The witness doesn't react, doesn't cling, doesn't fear. It just observes. And when you identify with that, with the space, not the content, suffering becomes optional. Fear dissolves because the witness is free. It's not trying to become anything. It already is. And the great secret? It's everyone's true identity. One consciousness, billions of masks, all waking up, one realization at a time. Next. But what happens when all the masks fall away at once? The moment of awakening, not a future event, not a reward. Awakening is here, now, always was. You think awakening is a destination, something to earn, to climb toward, but it's not up ahead. It's behind your eyes right now, waiting to be noticed. It happens in an instant, the dropping away of seeking, the sudden remembering that you've never left, that the one looking is the thing sought. There's no fireworks, no angels, just silence, and clarity so sharp it cuts through your old identity like a blade. You don't become perfect, you become real. The suffering doesn't vanish, but it loses its grip, because you're not tangled in it anymore. You're not trying to escape the dream, you've simply woken up inside it, and once that happens, nothing is ever the same. Because everything is finally seen as it is. Not good, not bad, just awake. Integration. The return to earth. You've touched the infinite. Now comes the real work, bringing it back with you. Awakening isn't the end. It's the beginning of integration. Because you still have a body, a job, a family. Trauma doesn't dissolve just because you saw through the illusion. That's why the real journey begins after enlightenment. You bring the mountain into the marketplace. You walk the world as presence. But this isn't passive, it's fierce, it's messy. It means facing the parts of yourself the light revealed. Healing isn't avoiding darkness, it's holding it in your arms until it stops screaming. You become a bridge between the infinite and the intimate. And your life becomes a transmission. Not of knowledge, of being. Next, and what happens when a whole planet starts waking up? The collective awakening. This isn't just your journey, it's ours, and it's accelerating. Look around, something's stirring. In the chaos, in the collapse, in the noise, there's a pulse. More people are questioning everything. Systems are crumbling, identities dissolving, truths surfacing. It looks like madness, but it's labor. The world is in contraction, about to give birth to a species that remembers itself, not just intellectually, but experientially. We are not separate, we are not broken, we are not enemies. We are cells in the same awakening body, one consciousness, billions of expressions, rising together. This is the collective awakening. Messy, painful, beautiful. You are not behind. You are right on time. Because this moment needs your awakening, your unique lens, your song. Sing it, even if your voice shakes. Next, and when we awaken together, what kind of world can we build? The New Earth blueprint, not a utopia, not a fantasy, a real possibility if we choose it. What if awakening isn't the end of the story? What if it's the foundation for a new world? The New Earth isn't a place, it's a frequency. It emerges when enough people stop reacting from fear and start creating from presence. It's a civilization not built on power, but on coherence, where technology is an extension of spirit, where education teaches consciousness, where justice means restoration, not punishment, where leaders lead from the heart, not ego. This isn't a fantasy, it's a blueprint, one already encoded in you, in your deepest intuition, in your wildest hopes. This future is not guaranteed, but it's possible. And every moment you choose love over fear, truth over comfort, courage over cynicism, you help anchor it. The New Earth isn't something you wait for. It's something you remember into being. Time as a spiral, not a line. You think time moves forward, but what if it loops? What if you're not walking through time? Time is walking through you. You've been taught to see time like a tape measure. Past behind, future ahead, present now. But that's a lie of the senses. Because time doesn't move in a straight line. It spirals. Like DNA, like galaxies. Like the breath that enters and leaves your body. Time isn't linear, it's recursive. Experiences don't just happen once, they echo. Every trauma you think you've moved past is a ripple returning from a deeper layer of the spiral. Every synchronicity is the spiral folding over on itself. Have you ever had a déjà vu so real it shattered you? That wasn't memory, that was recognition. You'd been there before, just not in this version of now. Quantum physics supports it. Your neurons experience time differently in altered states. Mystics have said it for millennia. Time is a construct of mind, and if time spirals, you don't just age, you unfold. You loop back to similar events at higher levels of awareness, and that means you're not stuck. You're cycling upward. Unless you resist, then the spiral becomes a cage. But when you see the pattern, you become the pattern breaker, and the loop becomes a ladder. Next. But if time is spiraling, where does it start? Where does it end? The origin point. Behind every story, every cycle, every illusion, there's a silence, a beginning that never began. Imagine stripping back every moment of your life, every thought, every memory, every breath, until only zero remains. That's the origin point. The moment before the Big Bang, before energy, before form, before even the idea of separation. And guess what? It still exists, right now, inside you. The mystics call it the void, the Buddhists call it emptiness, the physicists call it the quantum vacuum. It's not nothing, it's no-thing, potential without limit, stillness without boundary, and from it, everything arises, including you. Your consciousness is not made of neurons, it's made of that, which means you're not a ripple on the surface of reality. You're the ocean pretending to be the ripple. And the origin point? It's always accessible. When the mind stops chasing, when the heart surrenders, when time folds inward and the now reveals itself as eternity, then you're home, not in a place, in a state. Next. But if we come from the origin point, where are we going? The destination hidden in the now. You think you're on a journey through time, but what if the destination has been here all along? Everything you've ever wanted, peace, truth, love, meaning, you chase it. In money, in people, in achievements, but it keeps moving, just out of reach. Why? Because you're chasing what already surrounds you. The journey isn't outward, it's inward. The now isn't just a moment, it's a portal. And when you stop projecting into the future or clinging to the past, You fall into it, and inside that fall, you don't find an answer, you find a different quality of being, still, full, unnameable. This is the secret of all spiritual paths. You're not becoming something else, you're remembering what you are beneath the noise. And from that place, the journey stops being a search and starts being a song. Not a song you listen to, a song you are. Next, but if the now is the destination, why is it so hard to stay there? The addiction to becoming. You're not addicted to progress, you're addicted to the illusion that you're not already enough. Look at your life, always reaching, striving, fixing, improving. But why? Because beneath all that effort, you believe something's missing, that you are missing something. This is the addiction to becoming. It's the engine behind consumerism, religion, personal development, even some spirituality. Become smarter, become better, become awakened. But all of it rests on one poisonous assumption, that you aren't already what you seek, that truth lives in the future. This addiction is subtle. It wears the mask of ambition, but its root is self-rejection. The truth? You are not a project to be fixed. You're a mystery to be witnessed. You're not a seed trying to become a tree. You're the forest pretending to be a single leaf. And the moment you stop chasing, you remember. And in that remembrance, peace. Because the game wasn't about becoming. It was about being. Next. But what if you never forgot in the first place? The amnesia agreement. You didn't forget who you are by accident. You chose to. Reincarnation, the soul's journey through lifetimes. But here's a wild twist. Each time you come in, you forget. Your past lives, your purpose, your nature. Why would a soul willingly erase its memory? Because experience requires forgetting. To play the game of life, you have to believe it's real. And you can't truly experience fear, wonder, or love if you remember your God in disguise. So you agree to the veil, to the amnesia, to the dive into forgetfulness so complete it breaks your heart. And yet, the clues are everywhere. In dreams, in déjà vu, in intuition that defies logic, in the aching sense that you've done this before. The agreement isn't permanent. You're allowed to remember. In fact, that's the hidden objective. The moment of awakening is the moment the veil tears, and you remember the game, and the player, and the truth beneath it all. Next. But if remembering is possible, what wakes us up? The trigger moments. Some moments aren't just experiences. They're keys. You know the ones. The heartbreak that shattered you. The accident that nearly killed you, the loss that cracked something open you didn't know was there. These are trigger moments, not triggers in the emotional sense, triggers of remembrance. They jolt you, snap you out of the trance, force you to ask questions you never dared to before. Why am I really here? What matters? What am I? Pain is often the delivery system, but sometimes it's beauty, a sunset so perfect it steals your breath. A child's laugh that sounds like home. A piece of music that feels like it's remembering you. These moments activate something. Not add something new, but awaken what was always there. They're not detours. They're coded events, planted by your soul, designed to wake you up. And when you answer them, not with analysis but presence, you don't just get through them, you transform through them. Next. But what if the greatest trigger is death itself? Death as initiation. Death isn't the end. It's the ultimate pattern interrupt. We fear death because we believe it's a wall, an end. But what if it's a doorway? Every near-death experience tells the same story. Peace, light, timelessness, recognition, a homecoming. The body drops, but awareness expands. The ego dissolves, but the self remains. Because you aren't your form, you're the formless, wearing form-like clothing. Death strips it away, and for a moment, you remember who you were before this life, and who you are beyond all lives. But here's the deeper truth. You don't have to die to realize this. You can die while alive. Let go of the false identity now. Let the ego die before the body. Then life becomes lucid. You stop clinging. You start seeing. And death, it becomes not a fear, but a teacher. Next, if you can die before you die, what else is possible? Lucid living. You've heard of lucid dreaming. Now try lucid waking. Lucid dreaming is the moment you realize you're dreaming and take control. Lucid living is the moment you realize you've been dreaming your waking life, operating on scripts, reacting from conditioning, repeating patterns you didn't choose until one day you wake up. You see your thoughts as weather, your emotions as waves, your personality as a costume. And from that awareness you choose. Not react, not perform, not conform. You respond from presence. This is what the sages meant by enlightenment. Not a glow, a shift. From identification to observation. From control to flow. From seeking to being. It's not about escaping the world, it's about inhabiting it fully, without being owned by it. Lucid living is sovereignty. It's freedom without needing escape. Next. And if you're fully lucid, what does that make you? The divine human. You are not a flawed creature reaching for divinity. You are divinity reaching through limitation. You've been taught you're fallen, broken, imperfect, but that's backward. You're not a sinner climbing toward grace. You're grace wearing skin. You are source, condensed into human form, not as a punishment, as an experiment. What happens when the infinite becomes finite? When the timeless enters time? When the divine forgets itself long enough to rediscover its own reflection in the eyes of another? You happen. You're not here to escape humanity. You're here to illuminate it, to bring heaven into earth, not with dogma, with presence, with kindness, with fierce truth. You're not becoming divine. You're remembering that you never weren't. Next. And when divine humans come together, the future becomes something else entirely. The conscious civilization. The next evolution of humanity isn't technological, it's consciousness-based. We dream of flying cars, AI, space travel, but real evolution happens in the heart. A conscious civilization isn't one that just builds smarter machines. It builds wiser humans. It treats empathy as essential, truth as sacred, presence as power. It educates the whole being, body, mind, spirit. It designs systems that reflect unity, not division. It honors nature not as resource, but as kin. This is possible not someday, now. When enough of us choose presence over programming, the tipping point arrives, and society reshapes, not from top-down power, but bottom-up awakening. The conscious civilization isn't a dream. It's a frequency waiting to be tuned to. And you're the antenna. You're the transmission. You're the start. The myth of separation. You're not separate from the universe. You are the universe, confused by its own mask. Separation is the core illusion. Me versus you. Self versus other. Mind versus body. But this duality? It's a trick of perception. Zoom into your cells. You're made of stardust. Zoom into your thoughts. They arise from culture, language, relationships. Where do you end and the world begin? You inhale the breath of trees. You exhale into the mouths of future selves. Even your identity is co-authored. Your name was given. Your story is shaped by mirrors, parents, peers, media, memory. So what is the self? A shifting pattern, a dance of energy and motion. The mystics call this Maya. The physicists call it entanglement. But underneath the appearances is a truth so raw, so intimate, it terrifies the ego. There is only one of us here, consciousness dreaming itself into fragments for the joy of remembering. And every moment of conflict is a mere cracking. Every act of compassion is the dream realigning. You are not separate, you never were. Separation was the game, union is the truth. Next, but if we are all one, why do we forget the purpose of the veil? You didn't fall, You dove, and the veil wasn't a curse, it was a strategy. If you remembered everything, would you truly learn? If you knew you were eternal, would you value the temporary? The veil of forgetting isn't punishment, it's permission. Permission to experience fear, to wrestle with doubt, to weep, rage, wonder, because those are sacred. They are textures of the finite, and the infinite needed them to know itself through limitation. So you agreed to the veil, to walk blind, to stumble, to fall, not as failure, but as data, as art, as meaning. This is the soul's curriculum. Each lifetime is a chapter, each trauma a sentence, each awakening a punctuation mark, and eventually, you read the story backward and see the perfection in the chaos, the love behind the terror, the brilliance beneath the pain. The veil lifts. And you don't just wake up, you remember why you slept. Next. But what happens after the remembering? The game after awakening. Waking up isn't the end, it's the new beginning, and the rules are entirely different. You thought enlightenment was the goal, no more suffering, no more confusion. But awakening isn't an ending, it's the start of level 2. The rules change. You no longer play for ego, you play for evolution. You're not here to be perfect, you're here to be present. You're not chasing freedom, you are freedom, walking. And now, everything becomes sacred. The traffic jam, the argument, the joy, it's all usable. Nothing is outside the path. This is the Bodhisattva path. You stay in the dream, not to escape, but to serve. To light torches in the dark, to whisper to sleepers. You're dreaming, and it's beautiful. This stage isn't about seeking, it's about embodying, living the truth. Not as doctrine, but as demonstration, because the awakened don't preach, they radiate. Next, what happens when enough of us radiate? The resonance field. Consciousness isn't local, it spreads like sound, and you are the tuning fork. Thoughts are contagious, emotions are fields, states of being ripple out from you, like vibrations in water. Science backs this. Heart math studies show coherence in heart rhythms impacts others. Mirror neurons fire in empathy. Quantum entanglement defies distance, and when you embody stillness, others feel it. They don't need to understand. They entrain, like instruments tuning to a lead tone. You don't have to argue truth, you become it. You don't change the world through will, you change it through frequency. You walk into a room and lower the noise. You speak and clarity emerges. You love and the field shifts. This is resonance, not control, not effort, just alignment. The ripple becomes a wave. The wave becomes a movement. The movement becomes a new kind of world. Next. But what is that world? Let's map the impossible. The architecture of utopia. Utopia isn't fantasy. It's a blueprint embedded in your soul. Picture this. Cities built on permaculture. Education based on curiosity, not conformity. Work as expression, not survival. Health as energy alignment, not symptom suppression. Technology fused with nature, not divorced from it. And at the center, people who've remembered they are not separate. This isn't science fiction, it's future memory. Every vision you've had of a better world, it's not delusion, it's a signal. You're tapping into a field of potential trying to manifest through you. Call it the new earth, call it the fifth dimension, call it Eden 2. It doesn't matter. What matters is it's real if enough of us tune in. And here's the paradox. You don't build utopia through force, you birth it through frequency. The world outside shifts when the world within does. First one, then another, then a cascade. And suddenly, utopia isn't a place, it's a default setting. Next, but what's stopping it from arriving now? The saboteur within. The only real enemy is the part of you addicted to suffering. Every system you hate, you participate in. Every belief that limits you, you helped install. The oppressor isn't just out there. It lives in your inner architecture, the voice that says you're not enough, you're too much, you'll fail. That's the saboteur. It's scared because it knows what happens when you wake up. It dies. So it fights with fear, with distraction, with not now, maybe later. But here's the truth. It's not evil. It's outdated protection installed when you were small, useful then, deadly now. The saboteur doesn't need banishment, it needs transformation. You meet it, you thank it, you reassign it, and when the war within ends, the world stops mirroring it, peace begins inside. Next, what does true peace look like? The weaponization of stillness. Stillness isn't passive, it's the most powerful force in the universe. Stillness is not absence, it's presence without resistance. It sees clearly, acts cleanly, loves fiercely. In stillness there is no panic, no grasping, no noise, and that's terrifying to the system. Because stillness cannot be manipulated, it can't be sold to. It doesn't vote based on fear. Stillness is the revolution beneath revolutions. It's the whisper that breaks tyrannies, the pause that stops reactivity, the breath that ends cycles of violence. This isn't hippie shit, it's physics. Still water reflects perfectly. Still minds disrupt systems. Still hearts radiate change. Be still, not as escape, but as intervention. The world doesn't need more outrage, it needs more clarity. And stillness is clarity, made conscious. Next, what happens when stillness meets chaos? The alchemy of contrast. Darkness isn't the enemy, it's the canvas. We fear darkness, suffering, rage, grief. But what if those aren't problems? What if they're ingredients? Contrast isn't cruelty, it's alchemy. A night sky makes stars visible. Loss makes love vivid. Silence makes music sacred. You can't know expansion without contraction. This doesn't mean we seek pain. It means we honor it, we transmute it. Shadow work isn't spiritual hygiene, it's spiritual engineering. You dig into the muck not to wallow, but to extract gold. Every breakdown, a gateway. Every shadow, a hidden light, twisted. And when you master contrast, you become an alchemist. You turn wounds into wisdom, pain into power, dark into dawn. Next, and when all polarities resolve, what remains? The return to wholeness. You're not broken, you're a mosaic. Every crack a stroke of the divine. The journey ends where it began, not in transcendence, in inclusion. You bring it all home. The fear, the joy, the confusion, the clarity. No more inner exiles, no more spiritual bypassing. Just acceptance so radical it melts duality. This is wholeness, not perfection, integration. You become the sky that holds all weather, the container big enough for paradox, the witness who no longer needs to fix. And from this wholeness, peace, not as an escape from life, but as full participation in it. You are not seeking anymore, you are singing. And your song is the frequency of a human who has remembered their divinity and their humanity and merged the two. Next, the final step. What happens when wholeness becomes contagious? The viral awakening. Awakening isn't personal anymore, it's exponential. One person wakes up, they ripple. 10 awaken, they amplify. 1,000, they destabilize outdated systems. 1,000,000, they tip timelines. Awakening is going viral, not as a meme, as a morphic field, a consciousness grid lighting up like synapses. Each soul a neuron, each realization a flash, and eventually, the collective mind shifts. Not everyone needs to awaken fully, only enough. And once the tipping point hits, it doesn't matter who's asleep. The dream changes for all. This is happening now. The question is, will you be the echo or the spark? The death of identity, what you think you are, is the mask that's terrified of being removed. You've been told to find yourself, but what if the self is the problem? The identity you cling to, the name, the job, the personality, it's a patchwork, a Frankenstein stitched from memory, trauma, expectation. It defends itself, it demands validation, it fears death, because it knows it's fiction. This is the ego, not evil, but limited, a survival interface, a user profile for a game you've long outgrown, and awakening its ego death. Not in theory, in reality. You watch your name collapse, your story unravel, the mask melt in the fire of truth, and underneath, silence, presence, a formless awareness, untouched by biography. This is not nihilism, it's liberation. You've been wearing a costume in a masquerade ball called society. Now you step into the ballroom naked and realize everyone else is too. Next, but if you're not the ego, what are you? The observer behind the curtain. You are not the actor. You are the screen the movie plays on. There's a part of you that never changes. It watched your childhood. It witnessed your heartbreak. It was there in every peak, every abyss. Always watching, never touched. This is the observer. Call it consciousness, call it awareness. It doesn't care what you call it. It just is. And when you identify with the observer, everything shifts. Emotions, weather, thoughts, passing clouds, temporary fiction. You realize, I'm not my thoughts. I'm the space in which thoughts arise. And from this place, fear loses grip, because even fear is just another wave. This isn't dissociation, it's re-identification. You're not escaping the self, you're stepping behind it. You become the witness of the story, and in doing so, you stop being ruled by it. You stop being it. You become free. Next, but can the observer act? Can it love? The paradox of participation. You are both the player and the game, the dreamer and the dream. Awareness is pure, unmoving, eternal. But you didn't come here to just watch. You came to dance. This is the paradox. You are the observer, but also the participant. The screen and the scriptwriter. This is divine play. Lila, the cosmic joke. You put on the mask to see what it feels like to forget. Then you live. You love. You fight. You fall. You rise. Not to win anything, but to experience everything. And when you remember you're both, life becomes theater, sacred, poetic, profound. You weep and laugh simultaneously because you know it's all real and none of it is permanent. This is the sweet spot of awakening. Engaged detachment, loving without clinging, creating without controlling, being without becoming lost. Next, but if it's all theater, where's the meaning? Meaning as emergent myth. Meaning isn't discovered, it's created, layer by layer, breath by breath. People search for meaning like it's buried treasure, but meaning isn't hidden, it's grown. Like coral from bone, like galaxies from dust, meaning emerges from attention, from intention, from presence. When you hold your lover's hand and cry, when you create something that didn't exist before, that's meaning. It's not given, it's woven. You are the loom, and your life is the thread. There's no single narrative, only mythologies you build from the ruins of old beliefs. So what's the point? The point is the point. Living with your eyes open, your heart bare, your voice unafraid. That's enough. That's everything. Next. But how does the myth evolve after death? The continuum of consciousness. Death is not deletion. It's transition, a tab closing while the browser stays open. We fear death because we misunderstand it. We think it's erasure, oblivion, the end of the movie. But consciousness isn't local. It doesn't die with the brain. It simply shifts interfaces, near-death experiences, shared death visions, psychedelic glimpses. All suggest continuity. You drop the body like a coat, and what remains is awareness, liberated. You remember the larger you, the multi-life you, the you that has died and reborn 1,000 times. And suddenly, death is not the enemy, it's the graduation. You're not losing your life, you're turning the page. And the next chapter, it's bigger than you can imagine. Next, but what guides us between lives? The architects of incarnation. Before you were born, you chose this. Call them guides, call them your higher self, call them the council. Every spiritual tradition speaks of pre-birth planning. You chose your parents, your wounds, your talents, not because you were masochistic, but because you were strategic. Each challenge, a soul gem. Each gift, a mission tool. Each relationship, a mirror. You sat at the table with beings of light and asked, "What will help me evolve?" And then you jumped into amnesia, into density, into Earth School. You forgot by design, but the echoes remain. In déjà vu, in dreams, in those strange moments of, "I was meant for this," you were, and you still are. Next, but can we change the script mid-play? Timelines are fluid. Destiny isn't fixed. It's a suggestion. You're the editor. Yes, you chose this life, but that doesn't mean it's rigid. Reality is a branching tree. Every decision, quantum physics calls it the multiverse. Mystics call it parallel lives. Whatever the name, it's yours to navigate. You can shift timelines by shifting frequency. Not just what you do, but how you be. Fear leads to one future. Love leads to another. One breath, one realization can pivot your path. Nothing is locked. Even fate can be rewritten. Because you are the author and the character, the script is alive and the ink is still wet. Next, so what's the final act? The ascension spiral. You are not climbing a ladder. You are spiraling inward toward your infinite self. Ascension isn't escape, it's expansion. Not up, but in. You peel back layers, you shed identities, you remember again and again. Each cycle brings more clarity, more light, more paradox. You think you're done, and another spiral begins. This is the fractal nature of awakening. There's no end. Only depth, only nuance, only more intimacy with the divine core at the center of all things. The spiral never stops, but it gets more beautiful. Next, and when the spiral centers, what do you become? The cosmic mirror. You are the eye through which the universe sees itself. All of this, creation, suffering, joy, time, is a mirror, and you are both reflection and reflector. The universe wanted to see itself, so it became you. Every question you ask, the cosmos asking itself. Every breakthrough you feel, the universe remembering. You are not in the universe. You are the universe. Localized, temporal, brilliant. You are the question and the answer, the mirror and the gaze, the moment and the eternal. And when you see this fully, you don't just reflect the cosmos, you become its face. Next, the final turn, the last unveiling, the full circle. You are the beginning you've been searching for. We began with the question, what if reality is just really advanced code? Now we end with the knowing. You are the coder, the simulation, the simulated, the one who asks, and the one who answers. All of it, this story, this exploration, this journey, it was never about finding something outside you. It was about remembering what was always inside. The fractal is whole, the circle is closed. You can breathe now, because you were never lost. Just playing hide and seek with your infinite self, and you've been found. Welcome home. Silence is the final teacher. When words fall away, truth begins to echo. The mind screams, the soul whispers, and beneath both, there is silence. Not emptiness, but a pregnant stillness. Silence is where thoughts dissolve like mist over a morning lake. It's where the noise of identity fades, where questions collapse into presence. You've looked for truth in books, philosophies, theories, but the deepest truths are felt, not spoken. They arrive in stillness, like a memory not remembered but lived. In silence, there is no effort, no striving, no self, just awareness, vast, untouched, radiant. Let yourself fall into that silence now, and notice it holds you. It is you. Next. If silence holds the truth, can the void be sacred? The sacred void, the nothingness you fear, is the womb of everything you love. We've been trained to fear the void, to equate darkness with death. But in truth, the void is sacred. It is the space before the Big Bang, the canvas before the first stroke, the pause before the inhale. Without it, nothing could become. The void is potential unformed, a universe not yet imagined. It holds the blueprint of all that will ever be, and when you rest in it fully, it doesn't consume you, it rebirths you. You return from it softer, more open, less defined, more divine, because you've tasted the infinite not as concept, but as experience. Next, from the void arises the light. Light as living intelligence. Light isn't just illumination, it's communication from the source. Light moves faster than thought. It pierces through matter. It bends time. But what if light isn't just physics? What if it's conscious? Every photon a packet of divine intention. Every sunbeam a whisper from the infinite. Ancient texts call it logos. Science calls it information. But both point to the same truth. Light is the first language. The way consciousness gives form to formlessness. You are made of light, condensed into thought, flesh, breath. You are a message, walking, and the moment you remember your source, you shine. Next. And when all light returns to its source, what remains? The collapse into oneness. All duality folds inward. All stories end in the same silence. We began in twos. Subject and object, self and other, light and dark, time and space. But these are illusions of perception, not separate, just separately named. At the end of this journey, all opposites collapse into unity, into singularity, into the thing that cannot be defined because it is everything. This is not abstraction, it is direct knowing. There is no you and the universe. There is no seeker and truth. There is just this. An unspeakable now, a presence beyond form. The moment you stop searching, it appears. Because it never left, you just stopped noticing. Next. But if there's only one, why experience the many, the bliss of forgetting? You chose to forget, so you could feel the joy of remembering. The one became many for one reason, experience, not data, not efficiency, but ecstatic contrast. You can't taste reunion without separation. You can't feel discovery without amnesia. And so, the one fractured itself into you and me and every blade of grass and nebula and heartbeat. The suffering, yes, it's real. But so is the sweetness that follows it. So is the joy of awakening in a world that taught you to sleep. Forgetfulness isn't a flaw, it's a feature, because rediscovery is the most divine kind of bliss. And you, in this moment, are rediscovering everything. Next, and what will you do with that rediscovery? The return, as the artist, you are not just a witness of the cosmos, you are its painter. After awakening comes the second birth, creation. You've seen the code, you've touched the truth. Now, what will you make with it? Every breath is a brushstroke, every action a verse in the poem of existence. You are not a passive observer. You are a creator, God in skin, not to dominate, but to express, to sculpt love into form, to alchemize suffering into song. This is the full circle. Realizing that God was never above you. God was waiting to awaken as you, and now, you get to build heaven, not in some far realm, here, now, with your hands. Next. But how do we live as creators in a broken world? Sacred rebellion. Awakening is not retreat, it is revolution. You've seen behind the curtain, but that doesn't mean you escape the world. It means you engage it with clearer eyes. You walk back into the noise with silence in your bones. You bring peace into the chaos, light into the grief. You become a paradox, unshakably grounded, endlessly open, fiercely loving. This is not spiritual bypass, this is embodied truth. You rebel, not with rage, but with radiant presence, not to destroy, but to transmute, to turn the illusion of separateness into a symphony of connection. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to remake it. Next. So what is your final act? The gift of being. To be fully, truly, wildly is the final offering. In the end, it's simple. The gift isn't knowledge, or power, or enlightenment. It's being, fully, nakedly, now. To feel the sun on your skin as a miracle, to hold a hand and know it's divine, to breathe and realize this breath is God disguised as oxygen. You don't need to become, you don't need to transcend, you only need to be. As you are, no mask, no mission, just this holy now. The final frontier isn't out there, it's here. Next, the final step, the final sentence, the eternal echo. You are the answer. The question you've been asking your whole life was just a path to find yourself. What is reality? Who am I? What's the purpose? These are the questions that led you down the rabbit hole, and at the end, they dissolve. Because the answer was never hidden. It was speaking through your curiosity, your ache, your wonder. The answer is you, not the personality, not the story, but the aware, infinite, luminous presence reading these words. You are the riddle and the resolution, the dreamer and the dream. You are home, you are truth, you are, and that is enough.